I'm always so inspired by the song Living in the Moment. If this life is one act, why do we lay all these traps? Put them right in our path when we just want to be free, right? Why do we sabotage ourselves when we're craving freedom? Why do we waste our days worrying about things that sometimes, a lot of times, don't even happen, right? We have to let go to be able to be in the moment. Let go of the things that we've put ourselves on the hook for and other people. Let go of the past. Let go and have fun. Enlist life. Be in this present moment. Return home to the moment. Let go, let go, let go of the thoughts that do not make me strong. I love that line. Let go of the thoughts that do not make me strong, right? Stop giving our power, our energy to the things that weaken us. The worry, the fear, the doubt. And then the bridge talks about, I can't walk through life facing backwards. Now we want to learn from our past and we want to make a different decision, but facing backwards is not going to work. It's about repenting, which really means to turn and go in a completely different direction. More about that later. But to turn, to return home to the present moment. Living in the moment, having peace in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. That's home, being at home. So I know that some of you might have been expecting Jack Fowler this morning. Hope I didn't disappoint you. We will have him with us at another time. He was not able to join us after all this weekend. And we just send him and everyone in Texas and Louisiana affected by the hurricane. We just send so much love, and hold them in our hearts. And Jack is fine, by the way, but he wasn't able to be with us this weekend, and we will have him with us again at another time. But it was so sweet. Right as I announced that Jack was not able to be with us this week, one of our members and friends, and that is Laura Berman, she contacted me and she said, do you need someone to speak and do the music? I'll be happy to. I'm very inspired right now. Now it's Elul, which is the month leading up to the holy days in the Jewish tradition. And it's a time of reevaluating our lives, she said, and looking at spiritual practices and what needs to be released. And I could do the talk and the message, and I was very, very, very close to saying yes to that because I love Laura and everything she shares. And I will take a rain check on that, Laura Berman. I'll look forward to you sharing with us again soon. But I had already started the ball rolling about the talk and the music for this Sunday. And so I said, no, it's okay. We'll do that another time. But then I started thinking about returning home. Returning home was going to be the theme for the talk. Returning to a place, the peaceful moment, the present moment, the now charged, powerful moment. And then so I started looking at Elul and learning more about it because I've always been really fascinated and inspired by the Jewish tradition. So I looked into it, and it started on August 21st. Again, it is that month of preparation that leads up to the holy high days in the Jewish tradition, the Jewish New Year. And it's a time of self-examination and release and turning and going in a new direction if need be. And so I also was struck by the part that I read about how it's a signal to return home. And so I started thinking about all the things that home means. And a lot of this is inspired by the fact that my wife, Angie, for her birthday, wanted to be at my home where I grew up. She wanted to be in the mountains, so in nature. So we went home to the family farm, and we went up to Stone Mountain State Park and spent a lot of time hiking. And I'm going to tell you more about that in a moment. But we spent a lot of time hiking, and I started thinking about that home it's a place, yes. It could be a person, but really, what I'm talking about is home at the center of our being, returning to God, returning to peace, returning to the present moment, returning to that centered ground of being, returning to that. And so here we were at Stone Mountain, and I remember thinking, this is where I grew up. This was this beautiful river that's crystal clear, and these rocks that slide down into swimming holes. This was our swimming pool, right? these trails. This was like my backyard. And it was so good to be home. But it was also good to be home with family and to connect. And I had a takeaway from my journey that relates to the talk, and a takeaway that was all about a hike and about how I thought I was in a little better shape than apparently I might need a little more work around this area. But I'm in pretty good shape. But I thought we were taking a 2-hour hike, and because it'd been a couple or 20 years since I'd been on these particular trails, this one day we started at 11 and we were back to our car at 6. And so it was a long day, and I was feeling really loving being home, by the way, loving being there, but I was feeling physically like, I'm just going to sit right here and you go ahead and just do the same route tomorrow and I'll still be here, and then I'll finish with you, because I can't take it. I can't, my legs are shaking, when you're going straight up and then straight down, because we were on the summit, and then, well, this is great, but now what? Now we have to go down. So we are going down these stairs. I hesitate to even call them stairs because they're really far apart, and it's a hike, all right? And my legs are shaking, and I remember thinking, I don't know if I can do this. And then I started just focusing on the beauty. I literally thought, I don't know if I could do this, because I was hurting a little bit there, hour 4 or so. And so I started focusing on the beauty. This is one of the most beautiful places I believe there is. So I started focusing on the beauty. I started really, really being, as Thich Nhat Hanh speaks of, being peace in every step. Being mindful, which I needed to be because my legs were shaking. I needed to be really mindful of every step, or I was going to tumble down the mountain. So I was being mindful of every step. I was focused on the beauty. I was looking for the mushrooms. I was looking for the beautiful stones that I pick up and put in my pockets every time I hike. I was looking, and that presence came, that feeling of being wrapped in the presence of the divine came from being submerged in the present moment, which came from being absolutely concentrating in a place of concentration on the next step, which started out by just looking for the good, right? See how this relates to our journey home within, coming back to a centered place for our actions, for our thoughts, for our words, our deeds, everything moving in and as us, through us, from this place of centeredness. We always are having the opportunity to come back to center, to return home to center, to live in the present moment, the empowered now moment, and not facing backwards, not worrying forward, but being right here, fully right here, returning in each moment home. I remember, thinking of how much I'm inspired by the Jewish tradition, I remember being at Sandsea in Spirit one year, which was a retreat that I went to every September for many years in a row. And there for a long time, I feel like I would kind of squeal in on 2 wheels, just barely, tattered and worn and barely making it. And I would get there with these people that are like family to me. And I would always tell my friend Karen Rollins and my sweet Dottie, Miss Dottie, I would always say, I feel like I got here just in time. I got a lot of things I need to let go of, and a lot of things I'm ready to step into. And I said, it's like it's my new year. It's like it's my new year in September. And a friend of mine that year said, well, it is. It's the Jewish New Year. So you're just connecting with the Jewish New Year. So I remember thinking that, and every year since, I've been really recognizing that around this time of year, I start to evaluate, how am I doing so far, and what do I want to let go of, and what do I want to embrace? And I don't know about you, but I'd be perfectly fine for 2021 to start in September. Woo, it's been a year, but it's okay. We're just going to take it all in. We're just going to breathe it all in. We're going to continue to focus on the next step down the mountain, the next step back up the mountain, the next step. We're going to continue to focus on finding the good, looking for the beauty, being with that, being accountable where we need to be accountable, but then letting ourselves off the hook, holding others accountable where that needs to happen, but then continuing to move forward. So let me tell you a little more about Elul. I was so inspired. I kept reading and kept learning, and this was one of the passages that I found about Elul. It says, during Elul, a signal goes out to every Jewish soul that it is time to return to the palace that is home. It is a signal both subtle and loud. Subtle because it does not awaken even those who are closest, Every soul must awaken itself. Loud because it is a signal of love and joy. Subtle because it is an intimately personal call. Loud because it provides immeasurable powers to break out of whatever holds you back, lift you above all obstacles, and carry you all the way home. Subtle because the power is there, but latent, quiet, awaiting your determination. How can a signal be both subtle and loud, joyful and intimate, empowering and latent? Every soul must awaken itself. It reminds me of that Ernest Holmes quote that man is left to make the greatest discovery for himself, that we are each left to make the greatest discovery for ourselves, that we each must awaken on our own. We have the power within us to create our lives intentionally, our world collectively intentionally. But that power does no good unless we are conscious of it and taking conscious action in use of it. The power of electricity was there when Moses walked the land, but no one had figured out how to use it yet. So this awakening that we speak of, awakening to our divine potential, is a coming home to the power and presence within and our ability to co-create with it, with every thought and every word and every action. And we best do that by continually returning to that home within, continually returning, continually being in that place, focused on the good, focused on the beauty, which brings the peace, which brings the poise of looking at each new step, which keeps us in the present moment awareness, which wraps us in the presence. But it's not all that fluffy, flowery, feel-good stuff all the time. So a lot of times we feel like the chickpea that the Rumi poem speaks of, as the chickpea is trying to jump out of the pot because it's hot. And the cook keeps smacking it with the ladle and getting it back in the pot. You're not cooked yet, right? We're continually being cooked by the fire of transformation. That's what Jack was going to speak about, was the fire of transformation, and how it's not always pretty. It's not always easy, right? It's simple, but it's not easy. And how this fire of transformation, it burns away all the constructs of the ego that we have had, that we've relied on, right? And it continually burns it away to the ground and clears away for something new. We're continually being purified, being created anew to the level that we are able to surrender into that. We can embrace it and live to a greater and greater degree in that. But sometimes it can feel hard and feel worse before it feels better. Like right now, collectively, it seems like there's just so much natural disasters and more shootings and more corruption and more injustices being brought to the forefront, and it feels like so much. Continually feels like so much. And yet, we keep keeping on. We keep keeping a beautiful dream that started 57 years ago with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We honor his famous speech that was 57 years ago yesterday, and we honor that. We honor it to the degree that we dare to live that dream of equality and justice and unity and wholeness. We honor that, and we keep on keeping on, right? We honor that, but it's imperative that we continually return home to the center of being, because if we don't, we can stay so lost in the weeds. We can stay so lost in the next headline, in the next thing that is vying for our attention in our personal lives and our collective whole experience. We have to continually return home to the ground of our being, home to the presence, home to the peace, home to the power and presence of the divine moving through us. We're going to talk a whole lot more about this next month. We're launching into a series all on peace, a peace series. But it is imperative that we return home to the ground of our being, that we continually take stock and reevaluate where we're going in our life, what we're creating. that we recognize in this election year that we all are creating together, and it's really, really important that we pay attention to what we're creating and that we not feel like, oh, it's too much, why bother? Vote. Get out there and vote. Help others to do it. Educate yourselves. Continually do that. Continue to take stock and to evaluate and reevaluate your life, our collective experience. Continue to repent when necessary, remembering that to repent means to have a completely different direction. When something isn't working, have a completely different direction, to turn back to God. But to turn to God can sound all churchy, and some of you I know were from a traditional upbringing and resonate more with less traditional words. I was that way at first too when I came into New Thought. And what worked for me was to remember that God is life. God is truth. God is love. God is right here in this moment. So when I say return, repent, and change direction, and return to God, that's why I say return home. Because home is where we feel connected. Home. Return home to the present moment. Home to love. Home to life. Home to our co-creative nature. Returning to that place. Dr. Ernest Holmes said this in his last speech at the Asilomar Conference Grounds in California in 1959, his last sermon by the sea. He said, "Only that which reveals me to myself can be a message to me. Only that which gives me back to myself can save me. Only that which leads me to God, leads me to the God within myself, can reveal God." I love that. Let's not get distracted by other people's messages, by other people's ideas of what is truth, what is real, but continually return home to the ground of our being, which is where we move and breathe and have our being in this experience in a powerful way, where we can not be distracted, but to continue to focus on the peace and the poise and the presence and create our individual lives with passion and purpose and freedom, not continually sabotaging our own efforts, but looking at what is the story of my life? Am I living an ascension story? Am I living a story that is going the other way, right? What is the storyline? Am I continuing to write it from a place of power and freedom, peace, poise, and presence, returning home to the truth? This is what is ours to do. And so